What's up, everybody? It's Jared with Capture the Magic, and we talked in a video a few weeks ago about how a permit was unveiled that pointed to Epic Universe getting an expansion. Not sure where that was going to be, but at the time, it seemed like from everything I was hearing and just looking at the size of the permit, it was likely going to be in the Ministry of Magic, and it seems like that has been essentially confirmed by a new updated permit. So in this video, we're going to go through what this permit shows, and I also have a little bit of info about what might be coming here. And is this the only thing that is going to be added to Epic Universe at this time, as there could be multiple things coming to Epic Universe in the near future? So that's what we're going to talk about today in this video. Go through all this and get some thoughts on it. So this is from Blogmaking. It says, permit update confirms expansion coming to Harry Potter Land Ministry of Magic at Epic Universe. A new update for a previously filed permit confirms that an expansion to the Wizarding World of Harry Potter is on the way. The new update lists P905 as the location, and P905 stands for Project 905, which is the code assigned to the Wizarding World of Harry Potter Ministry of Magic at Epic Universe. In the updated permitting portal screenshot below, you can see that the description of the work has been updated to say located within area P905. Previously, the permit simply listed site utilities and foundation work, which it still does. It says, as we previously reported, the work will encompass a space of roughly 150,000 square feet, which is roughly about 3 acres. It says, which is a massive plot of land. For context, the new Monsters, Inc. roller coaster building, one of the largest at Walt Disney World, clocks in at just over 100,000 square feet. Of course, the Universal permit says that the total tenant space is 150,000 square feet, but it is not clarified how much of that will be used by the actual building. That said, we expect that this Harry Potter expansion will be substantial, likely a second attraction for the popular land. So I'll go through some of the things that I have been told, but this is going to be another ride in the Ministry of Magic, which, again, makes sense given that this is the only land in Epic Universe that only has one ride. I mean, I know people are going to point to the show in there, but essentially you have one major ride and a show in this land. And if you're going to look to add to a land in Epic Universe, it does make sense that adding to this land, as well as, you know, the Wizarding Worlds have been very successful for Universal, and so that's yet another thing they're doubling down into by adding something into the Ministry of Magic. It says, as seen in the aerial photo from friend of the site BioReconstruct, there is a nice plot of land right behind the current footprint of the Harry Potter themed portal at Epic Universe. The expansion pad is neatly bounded by a backstage roadway on 2 sides and existing buildings and themed facades on the other 2 sides. And this expansion area of the Ministry of Magic is about 3 acres in size. So previously, when we looked at the land mass or the size for this permit, you could really narrow it down in terms of what you might be looking at. Really what it came down to was the Ministry of Magic expansion area, the Dark Universe expansion area, and potentially the Super Nintendo World one, but that one is 7 acres, and I never really thought that that would be the land in which that this permit was pointing to. So essentially, it was really going to come down to Dark Universe and the Ministry of Magic, and obviously here we're finding out that it is, in fact, the Ministry of Magic. As for what could be coming, that's anyone's guess at this point. We've heard some rumors as to what could be on the way, but it's too early to say. We'd expect that whatever is next will be just as immersive and thrilling as the existing Battle at the Ministry attraction. Well, I might have an idea. We'll go into this in a moment, but it's some things that I've been told about what might be coming to the Ministry of Magic. It says, in terms of where we'd expect this expansion to attach to the existing Harry Potter land, there's a wonderfully themed dead end on the east side of the current guest accessible spaces that seems custom built for expansion. Of particular interest is this facade with a plaque mentioning the French Ministry of Magic, and it seems like this would serve as a wonderful entrance to a future attraction. As we go back to the recent aerial photo of the area, we can see here that there is nothing behind this facade currently, and that is immediately adjacent to the expansion plot for the Harry Potter land at Epic Universe. So, I mean, if you look at this area here, you've got plenty of space back here, and this obviously is going to be the expansion pad, but I would agree. I think you're going to have the entrance to this area be somewhere at the end of this kind of dead end that's right there. So the Universal Orlando Resort has not officially announced any details for the Harry Potter land expansion at Epic Universe, and Universal Orlando did not respond to a request for comment, which is typically how Universal does these things. They don't really make a big, hoopla about what's coming. They kind of start construction. They do permits so you can find those, and then halfway through construction is whenever they come out and basically announce what is coming. but they also do it in a time period like once they announce it, you probably have about a year to a year and a half before it's done. So I think it builds up a lot more of active anticipation, I guess you could say, of knowing something's coming, and you can actually even start planning a trip for it. And I do think that is a better way, personally speaking, whenever you're hyping up new things or building new things for your theme parks versus, how Disney does it. Disney gives a big old presentation when they go to D23, and then these things are years away from coming online. And I think, you really can't maintain that excitement level for as long as it's going to take to build all these things, 5+ years typically, versus the way that Universal does it, which is they just kind of start, like you're seeing with Rip Ride Rocket right now. They start construction, they don't announce what's coming, and we'll probably hear about a year and a half before, the new Rip Ride Rocket replacement coaster opens, what is coming. And, that from that point, once they announce it, your excitement can really last until a year or 2 year and a half when something is open versus multiple years. I do think that way Universal does that, I kind of think that is a better way to do it. Actually builds more anticipation, more speculation about what's coming. I kind of think that's fun as well. So of course, when you're talking about Epic Universe, everybody has been anticipating, Universal announcing expansions to this park. Even though it just opened, it's barely been open 6 months, but Universal themselves, even in the run-up to Epic Universe opening, had basically made statements even saying that there are more things coming to Epic Universe in the near future. So they have also leaned into the speculation here about, something else coming to Epic Universe. But of course, you look at the wait times here, and the high wait times have just been an issue in this park since it's opened. And on some level, you're just going to have to add more attractions into this park. And clearly, Universal is already, angling to do that by starting a permit here. But from what I have been told, this is not going to be the only thing coming to Epic Universe potentially being built at the same time. Now, obviously, more things have not been announced. These, I will just put this under the rumor category. These are things that I have been told. But when you talk about rumors, a lot of times things can change. So always take this with a grain of salt. So from what I've been told, of course, we know about the permit for Ministry of Magic. That obviously is going to be an expansion in this land. And when it comes to Ministry of Magic, what I was told, the ride in there is going to be a broomstick style ride, which has been speculated about before. There's been different concepts of this. At one point, there was a VR version of this, and there have been some other ideas about this, but I don't know the specifics in terms of, all of that. But all I know is that I was told it is going to be a Harry Potter broomstick ride. I really do hope it involves Quidditch if this is going to be the case. If that is the case, that will probably make a lot of people happy. This type of ride has been something that people have really had on a wish list when it comes to the Wizarding World at Universal Studios. So I think a broom style type of ride, maybe a type of roller coaster, or I'm not sure, again, of the specifics here, but I think something along those lines will be very popular with the fan base if that is in fact what ends up going in here. And I was also told at the same time or around the same time of the Ministry of Magic expansion going on that there would be a Super Nintendo World expansion going on as well, and likely there being Zelda. So again, these are rumors. This is what I've been relayed by more than one person, which again does fit into sort of what Mark Woodbury had been saying, that there were multiple things coming to Epic Universe. He made a point to actually kind of relay that in an investors conference a couple months ago, where he said attractions coming to Epic Universe and not just a singular form. So this is something that I've kind of always felt they probably would do, as they really are going to have to increase this park's capacity to be able to get more people in this park to try and deal with the wait time issues at Epic Universe. And while they do feel like they can make headway on the ride operations, being more reliable, moving more people through them, on some level, you're just going to have to add more things to this park, ideally indoor attractions as well, because when it rains, especially in the summertime, most of the attractions in Epic Universe go down. So the things that they're adding, from what I've also been told, these will be indoor attractions, which will be a much appreciated addition, I think, to Epic Universe. So of course, take all that with a grain of salt, as anytime you're talking about rumors, but these things were relayed to me with pretty good confidence about what is coming here. And I think when you're talking about a broomstick style ride, when you're talking about Harry Potter, that is something that people have been wanting for years. Now, in terms of the ride system they could use, I don't know. I was not given any specifics, and when I asked, I was not told exactly what it would be. But I think you could look at the concept with the Monsters, Inc. door ride that they're building over in Hollywood Studios at Disney World. That type of system where you're suspended up top, riding a broomstick along those lines, something like that could be really cool. I've also talked about thinking about Flight of Passage in Animal Kingdom, how you're riding a banshee. I could definitely see a broomstick style ride being involved in that. So I don't know if they're going to go the more simulator route with high def screens, or we're going to go more of the roller coaster route where you're kind of riding a broomstick through a roller coaster, or it could end up being something else. We do know something is coming to the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, and some people have speculated you could look at a boat ride for Harry Potter. I was told if there is going to be a boat ride, it would probably be the one going into Dark Universe as the long-rumored Creature from the Black Lagoon ride that has been talked about, that new ride system from Mack Rides, where it's a roller coaster / water ride. That is likely what you'd be looking at in there. And when it comes to Zelda and Super Nintendo World, I was not told any details. I do know that they have been looking at developing a Zelda area for Universal Studios for a very long time. I would say easily 5+ years. And I do know a few years ago that they were looking at a lot of specifics in terms of how they were going to do a Zelda land. And one of the worries they had was, and originally this was long rumored, and seemingly Universal was even pointing to this going into the Lost Continent area of Islands of Adventure. But the worry there was of if Zelda had enough of a broad appeal that it would pull enough people in or be popular enough to pull people over to Islands of Adventure. And so what I'd heard recently is tucking it into Super Nintendo World, having it become part of the overall offering of Nintendo in Epic Universe, and that is where the Zelda expansion will go, which also we have seen Zelda in that gift shop right out of Super Nintendo World, which kind of give you some Easter eggs there. Zelda's on the window panes, really the only character that is portrayed in that store that is not part of Super Nintendo World. So I think that's something that makes a lot of sense from what kind of the Easter eggs there. And since Zelda is not going into the Lost Continent, and I've talked about this one before, but I've also been told that it looks like Pokemon is going into the Lost Continent at this point, which I'm sure that will make a lot of people happy, and Pokemon in Universal Parks would be absolutely huge. I'm not a Pokemon person myself, but I do know how big that franchise is, and that is definitely something that would be a major draw when you're talking about new attractions or new Nintendo properties coming to Universal Studios. Take all this with a grain of salt. I'm just going to say these are rumors. These are things I've been told, but these things can always change. And until there's, actual confirmation of these things, I always take it with a grain of salt. But I do think that is what we're looking at in the expansions for Epic Universe. So I would say there's probably going to be another permit pop up here sometime in the coming months about another expansion area coming to Epic Universe. But in terms of a timeline, especially on this permit that we know about for the Wizarding World, it does say that the permit expires June 3rd of 2026. That doesn't mean that it's going to be done by then. These can get extended, or this period of the work could be done by then. Again, this is going to be foundation work. So I would assume that they're going to start breaking ground on this, sometime early in 2026, maybe even earlier, as they start working on this and adding more things to this park. And it's very exciting. Again, I love Epic Universe, but it definitely does have its issues in terms of the wait times and needing more things for people to do here. I've also been told that they are working on more entertainment options in this park. So I think they're trying to deal with the wait time issues in the short term with getting the rides more efficient, having more uptime, adding more things for people to do. And in the long run, adding more attractions and expanding these lands here to also have more things for people to do, to spread people out, to be able to bring these wait times down. And then, you run into this weird situation where you do this to bring down wait times, but obviously they want to get more people into this park. And I think the real big question there is, let's say, right now they're under 20,000 people or around 20,000 people per day they let into Epic Universe. If then you add these new things to the park, and then let's say you can get that number up to 30, maybe 35,000 people in this park, are you still dealing with high wait times, but just more people in the park? And I think that is the question there that we'll find out eventually. But that also is going to be a little conundrum of, if you're able to do this, but just more people in the park with still the high wait times, you still have a wait time issue here. And I don't think that's something that's going to alleviate the problem here. So that'll be interesting to see how they kind of tackle that, if they're able to really bring these wait times down. Because once you bring these wait times down and these rides operate much more efficiently, which they are getting better, and these are all expected things to happen with a brand new theme park, but once you're able to get these wait times down, Epic Universe doesn't have a lot of faults. I mean, the main fault about it right now is just the wait times. It's a great theme park. The immersion is great. And as they continue to expand it, I think it's just going to be another thing that's going to pull more people to Epic Universe, pull more people to Universal, on top of things also coming to Universal Studios and Islands of Adventure as well. So they're in major expansion mode right now in terms of the parks. and I think they're only going to continue to go even harder this direction. I've been saying this for months, that I think the pace in which that they're going to build and expand Universal Studios is going to surprise a lot of people. And I don't know how many people really had on their bingo card that they would already be looking at expanding Epic Universe before you're even 1 year of this park being open. But I'm not surprised by it. I'm actually not too surprised to hear that there very likely will be 2 new expansions coming to Epic Universe, as they want this to be their flagship park. And you really can't have something be your flagship park if you're unable to get more than 20 some odd thousand people into this park. So they want 40, 50,000 people in this park. And to be able to do that, you're going to have to bring these wait times down, have more things for people to do here, and, you know, continue to tackle these issues. So if you like Epic Universe, it's looking like it's going to have more things to do. And if you're waiting to go to Epic Universe for these wait times to go down, eventually it will get there. I don't know if it'll get there before these expansions come, but you have to assume once they add some of these expansions that likely the wait time issues would, you know, be somewhat lessened here as this park continues to grow and really become Universal's flagship park. But whenever there's more information on this or I hear anything else, I will be sure to let you guys know about it. But for now, that is going to be it, though, for this video. So if you like this video, please like it and subscribe to the channel, as we do lots of coverage here of Universal Studios, Epic Universe, Disney World, and pop culture. And let us know in the comments, what do you think about all this? And until next time, we will see you in the parks.